He's coming in. Is it on now? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our changed meeting date for our airport advisory. It's June 13th. Thank you to the members of the committee for being able to attend this meeting. Normally, as you know, I don't like to change the dates because it's too difficult in our calendars to do that. But something critical has come up and we'll discuss it at the end of this meeting. It's important that you recognize that we occasionally we're forced to change, but it doesn't change our October meeting. That's still the same date as previously published, which is, I think, October the 17th. So once again, thank you very much. I want to call the meeting to order and recognize that we are doing our business today on the unceded territory of the Upetchisitt and Sishot First Nations. The meeting is being recorded and it's live streamed to YouTube on the regional district website. And we'll just go around and introduce the members of the committee that are present in the boardroom, starting with this gentleman on my left. Oh, welcome. Yes.
Mike Gans, Sproul Lake Fire Department.
Harley Wiley, Sishot First Nation, and I'll apologize now. I have a meeting conflict and I'm going to have to leave a bit early today, but glad to be here. Thank you.
Pat Deacon, City of Port Alberni Economic Development. I'm a liaison from the city to the committee, so I'm not a voting member.
Jenny Brunn, General Manager of Community Services, here as staff support.
Good morning, Akama Penny Cote. I am the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake on the ACRD and on committee member on this board. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Cindy Solda from the City of Port Alberni City Council.
Thank you. And I'm Mike Ratana, Chair, but we also have coming from electronically to us from Zoom. Start with Dan Savard.
Daniel Savard from Swept Away Inn in Port Alberni and Royal LePage.
And our pilot from Colson's.
Hi there, Håkon Eskrog. I'm the corporate chief pilot in Colson Aviation.
Thank you. I saw him, Stephen Jones, but he seems to have booked off. He's an alternate. Yeah. Oh, Right. Yeah,
Apologies. Thank you, Chair. Good morning. This is Mariah Coos representing New Chucklesett Tribe Government. I was having Zoom link issues.
thank you. And beside me,
Good morning, Cynthia Dick, General Manager of Administrative Services.
okay. Thank you, everybody. Quietly sitting in the back is our airport manager.
Hello, Mark Fortune, Airport Manager for the ACRD.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to the public who is sitting, members of the public who are sitting here. Thank you very much. Committee, we have an agenda that has been produced. Any concerns, any changes? If not, we need a motion to accept the Cindy, and thank you very much, Penny. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Any declarations, any conflict of interest? No. Then committee, we have the minutes of our last meeting from April 18th. Any concerns, any changes needed? Seeing none, a motion to approve.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. And Penny second. Any concerns? All in favor? Carried.
We have somebody joining us online, Christine Washington.
Oh. Chris Washington.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm late.
it's okay. Welcome. I will have to make sure that oh yeah, I've got a screen in front of me, so I'll include you. Thank you. Then there are some items under correspondence. The first one is a GoFundMe to create the Hawaii Mars Final Flight documentary. And committee, just a little bit of background. The two Mars planes that are currently in the valley are both leaving the valley. One of them in this fall at some point, and it'll leave from Sproat Lake, fly over to the east coast. The intent is to fly over to the east coast, down the east coast of the island, and land in Saanich Inlet, just in front of Pat Bay Airport, be taken up the ramp and through the park planes and park there for the Aviation Museum. But there's an intent to make a documentary about this whole thing because this is iconic. This is a really big deal for the province and the country, and certainly for the Alberni Valley, that this plane is going to have this one last flight. So there's an attempt to raise some money to help make this documentary that will be part of it. And the documentary then, of course, will be able to be shown at the Aviation Museum, but also anywhere else that the choices are there. So for your information, I have included what was sent to me so that you can have a look at it, and please pass it around and distribute it because, you know, it's an expensive undertaking, and in order to make this happen, the provincial government did certainly contribute a fair amount of money. But there's additional funds that they're trying to raise to record this event. Okay, any concerns, any questions, any comments? Cindy?
So what the ask is just to send it out to people that out online and stuff like that. It's just for information for us.
Just for information for the committee, use your connections if you would like to help, you know, spread this information. Yeah. And-
So through the chair to staff, could we have a link on our website to this? Or is that not acceptable? Thank you.
Okay, Cindy?
I've just never heard of the ACRD or the city putting a link on their websites for GoFunds. I might be wrong, but I've just never seen that. And if we support one, there's a lot of people that would probably want the same thing happening for other reasons, for other charity events that are really big out there. So I caution that one.
Yeah, okay. Cynthia?
One thing that we've done in the past is it's gone to the board of directors as correspondence for information. And then that way it's indirectly on our website as it's a part of the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's just, I think it's important to get the information out if people want to contribute. And then that brings us to the next item on correspondence, and it's a letter from David Wibachar regarding renaming the Alberni Airport Terminal Building to the Wallace Watts Terminal. And just for information of the committee, I have spoken with members of Wally's family, and they would be delighted if this were to happen. And you know, he's incredibly honored that he's even being considered. So is there any discussion on the committee? Cindy?
I know Mr. Watson. I know what his first pilots and stuff like that. I'm just kind of curious to know what T-Shot or Mitchanoth or whoever feels about this, and what's the policy of renaming buildings and terminals and that.
Okay, I know that Harley brought us to our last meeting, and I don't know, do you have any response, Harley?
Yes, thank you. And it's good that you've taken the time to talk to the family, and I can understand they would be happy. And something that involves a Tsishat member, community, etc. Have you spoken to Tsishat or Tsishat Council? Our community might appreciate being spoken to as well. I thought that was important to point out in my email this morning. Does that help answer your questions?
It totally does, because I think there's more than just one party that has to be involved in this discussion, as well as our policies. What is our policy too? I mean, if there's not a policy, what does the ACRD board feel about this renaming? So I think that's going to be important too.
Mike.
Harley?
Okay, yes, and to add to that, I did inform our council this morning. I was thinking about this after I received the initial information, and I wasn't really too sure what I should do. And I thought, well, it's not up to me to decide. What is up to me is to share this with our council so we can have a discussion. And I think that community members might have some input and feelings about it as well. So I've done what steps I could to help with this. Thank you.
Jenny?
Yeah, and so the ACRD does not have a naming policy per se. I don't know, we could do a research on past practices to basically use that as a guide moving forward, but we do not have an adopted policy as it stands.
Thank you. Cindy?
I think it's really important because there's a lot of partners going to be involved in it. That's involved in the airport. It's not just the city or ACRD, but there's a lot of us that sit around this table. And I think it's really important to have that communication. And I would love to see what past policies have been, or there is no policy, but something. And I think that communication needs to be put out there and not just, and then can come back to us, because there's not a hurry to name a terminal at this moment, but we need to do it right if we're going to do it.
Agreed. And as a committee and as an advisory committee, we're not making the decision. We're just, how do we feel as a committee about this moving forward? And ultimately would be a decision of the ACRD board of directors. So if the will of the committee is to do some checking and come back for a final endorsement, fine with me. We are asked, how do we feel about it as a committee? Cindy?
Sorry, everybody. I just think we're not there and ready to make that decision yet till we talk to T-Shot and to other people that are going to be affected. And I still think there's a lot more homework to do before we make a decision what we want to do. And that's my personal feeling. And I'm sure there's a whole community out there too. And it's owned not just by the people who sit around the table. We represent the people out there. And I think that's got to be put out there too. Mr. Watts is really well known and I have, yeah, it's a positive, but I think we still have a lot to do before we make a decision.
Okay, Penny first and then Harley.
Thank you. My personal opinion, I support this in principle. And I think that we could actually support it in principle, but rather than making a recommendation, but just support moving forward with this in principle. So I would actually like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Harley?
Or my memory fails me farther down the road. Lot going on. Anyhow, yes, I agree. There's a bigger community out there and there are many things to consider. And actually, that reminded me, it's fair to say the meeting I have to leave for, I've tried to schedule and I've had to wait for weeks, months to get a chance to sit and talk with the mayor and the chief admin officer. And part of that discussion is going to be, if we're talking about reconciliation, in my mind, reconciliation includes not just mainstream and Indigenous people, but other people of color. And with that, there are members of the Chinese community that have been a big part of the history of Port Alberni, as have South Asian, East Indian, and other sects of the South Asian community. And I think that if a decision is made on this, yes, good point. It affects the whole community. And it just made me realize the reason I'm wanting to meet with the mayor and talk about reconciliation is there are still challenges that we are all navigating through this city. And I realized, okay, the optics of this could be from some members, not all, but some members of the general public, is preferential treatment being given to Tsisha. It doesn't seem the case, but still there are people out there that could look at it that way. So I think that exercising caution is the wise thing to do, and it's what the responsible thing to do is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Penny, you wanted to?
Just further along with the conversation that we've been having, ask the regional district for clarification on it, on creation of a naming policy.
So are you wanting to make that as a motion or are you wanting to just?
I don't think it
Commission.
needs to be a motion here.
Okay,
It's just a request, I guess. But I did make the motion for support in principle for the process to continue with looking into this. So
Cindy?
I don't think I'm ready to support a principal motion until I see more and more homework is done and more of the community engagement. I do agree with the policy that a recommendation to the ACRD board to come up with a policy on naming, and because there's going to be other things that are going to be happening at the airport and probably naming ceremonies and different things. But I do believe that they should have some kind of policy, and that will set precedents for present as well as for the future. And again, it's all about the community. So let's do one step at a time. I mean, we still have lots of time to get to that point of naming.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Mariah and then Christine.
Christine had her hand up first. I'll let her go first. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, wasn't watching.
That's okay. Thanks, Mariah. And I'm making it short and sweet. I completely agree with Cindy. I don't think we should be making this decision even to just push it forward to ACRD until we've got more information.
Thank you. Mariah?
Thank you, Chair. I'm in agreement with both sides. I definitely support the idea in principle along with Director Cote, but I do agree with Cindy. I think it's a little bit jumping the gun. I believe that we need to have discussions as well with Pachesset, as this is also their lands. And so I think once we have a little bit more discussions with the public and get more opinions in on, and then I think we'll be able to make decisions a little bit later. Thank you.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, I think it was a great recommendation by Mr. Wilchar. I do fully support this whole idea of, finding a suitor that, a person that's, done a lot in this town, has gone a long way in this town. But I think that more of a support for what Penny's having to say. I do respect that, it needs to involve everybody. But I think moving it forward would be a great idea. Thank you.
And
Thank you. The reason why I'm suggesting support in principle is because we're asking staff to put staff time in on this. So without a request, a recommendation from us coming to staff of the ACRD, they don't really have any direction as to doing any investigating or looking into this. Thanks.
just me being naive, but wouldn't it be the ACRD that would be directing staff time, not us as a committee?
I can, yes, so technically the committee only makes recommendations to the board. The board is the only one that can direct staff. I think that just listening to the discussion here, it sounds like the committee could recommend that the board direct staff to provide a report that looks at some of the components of what renaming of the airport would be and different important considerations if they chose to go forward. That report could then come to the next AVRA committee meeting, and then the committee could consider that and see what next steps would be. And I think that probably we could just do some preliminary research without diving into too much staff time on this so that the committee would have a better idea whether they wanted to pursue this, if they understood the scope of what that looks like.
Okay, that helps. Cindy?
I really like that, just so you know. And also, I mean, yes, we have Mr. Watt's name put forward, but maybe the community might have a submission of other names, and then it can be recommended from the slot of names that come to this committee. So, and forward over to the ACRD. But I do like your recommendation. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Oops, Dan, you have almost the final word.
No, it's good. I just, my hand was still up. Sorry about that.
Okay, then over to
I would make that Jenny put forward. Do you have it, Cynthia, or?
I can read you what I have so far, and if you can make amendments as needed. So that the Alberni Valley Regional Airport Advisory Committee recommend to the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors to direct staff to investigate moving forward with the renaming process of the Alberni Valley Regional Airport Terminal Building to Wallace Watts Terminal and provide a report to the Alberni Valley Regional Airport Advisory Committee.
Cindy?
That is not what I will, I agree with, because that's not what you had mentioned, and I don't want to put a name to it. And it's not, we're not recommending it, so I will not support that particular motion.
So maybe we
you
can
repeat
just
it.
go back afterwards and we'll review what was on the video, because again, and then we can just verbatim put that down. If you guys want to pass that, that can work as well.
Cindy?
As long as there's no name mentioned in it, because that's not what we were, your recommendation, well, yeah. So if it's exactly that, I will go with it, but I will not approve.
So it's you're talking a renaming process, not a specific name. Okay, so that's now your motion, Penny? Okay.
Yes, that's my motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Oh, we have a seconder. Cindy's seconded. Uh, You'll be checking the minutes. I know that. Okay, thank you, everybody. So that brings us to reports. And the first one has come back to us from our previous meeting because we weren't able to really review it because it hadn't come to us properly. So oh, all right, I do. Thank you. I need a motion that we receive that correspondence.
So moved.
So move, and a second. Penny, thank you. All in favor? Carried.
And we have another person join us, Mr. Chair, Stephen Jones.
Stephen Jones. Ah, Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I was on there, but the link didn't really work, and I was allowed through now. So yes,
Okay,
I've been here the whole time, but sorry about that.
You just missed the most exciting part of the entire meeting, but that's okay. We're happy to have you.
No, I listened to the whole thing. I was here.
Okay, the AVRA terms of reference. And I'm going to turn this over to you, Jenny, and just to bring everybody up to speed so that we can just make sure that we understand.
Yeah, so my apologies through the chair to the committee that I wasn't here at the last meeting. And so I understand that this report went because it went to the board and then it came to the committee as an update. And I think there was questions. So in March, was it in? Yes. So at the March 27th board meeting, the AVRA terms of reference were reviewed and updated as attached. And what the update was at that time was to add in one member representing the AVRA anchor tenant Coulson Air Crane. And that was basically amended in the terms of reference, brought to the board. And then we wanted to bring it to the committee to modify and notify the committee. I think that unfortunately the process could have been improved. It had gone to the committee first and then the board. And so I think in hindsight and moving forward, we'll always be making sure that we're going to the committees first for any amendments in terms of reference. At the time, I think they just felt that it was a quick process. And as a matter of procedure, so the committee does understand that it is the board again who does approve the terms of reference. However, I think it is important for the committee to have input and review on what's going on with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the updated terms of reference.
Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate that. I know what's happened is the addition, but there's also there are 6 areas of responsibility for us as a committee. And I think it's worthwhile for the committee just to review those and make sure that we fully understand what our areas of responsibility are. So with your indulgence, I'll just quickly review that. The first one is promoting and marketing our airport. And however that's going to accomplish, and we be accomplished, and we do have access through you to a little bit of funding to ensure that that happens. Encouraging the development and improved air services to the region, and which is something, it was part of our airport review, and it's continue to work on that. Review and make recommendations on identified airport matters as requested by the board. Not, the ACRD board. Gather and provide community input with respect to airport plans and activities that impact the community. So again, assisting. Review and provide input on issues impacting the airport and airport lands. And there are always concerns, always, how do we move forward? How do we get the trees down? Whatever it is. And advise on matters relating to the airport services such as development planning, economic development, operations, maintenance, and safety, which becomes, through Mark Fortune, a really big, important part of our areas of interest. And then all committee deliberations and recommendations to the board will be guided by the ACRD's strategic plan. So it's got to be part of the big picture. So I just wanted to get that in there. It's just really important that that we understand what are our 6 areas of responsibility. Okay, anybody on the committee wish to make any other comments, any concerns? Then, not seeing none, we need a motion to accept the terms of reference. Or not, we don't need that?
So this one is different because it should have been a report because it was deferred. But it was accidentally put as a report.
Okay, Cindy.
Sorry, it's just a quick question. I'm going to play devil's advocate, nothing to do with the Coulson representative too. I'm just kind of curious to know if in other committees or other airports, when they have their committees, do they have their main renter part of the committee? Just putting it out there because of course there has been a lot of public comments about that, and I have no problem with it. But I'm just, perceived conflict of interest is where I'm going.
I can speak a little bit to that, and I don't know if Mark knows off the top of his head. When we were discussing this at the board level, Daniel did mention that he used an example of the Qualicum airport, and they have a number of representatives who are also tenants, just core tenants. And I think really it depends. We have a very eclectic group on this airport, and again, it is. I think that the collection of committee members is based on what we feel is a good and helpful, useful representation to, again, move forward with those objectives. It really is at the discretion of the board on who is in the committee. We have no constraints or restrictions, but I do believe there is other airports that have those, especially when you have major anchor tenants.
Which is fine. I mean, in this, as you said, we have a collective group. And I don't own an airplane, so there's no perceived conflict of interest. So, I mean, we're all just one vote and we represent who we represent. So, yeah, okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
So just procedurally, Jenny, I'm sorry, just to clarify for me, do we actually need a motion to accept?
So normally the resolution is that the committee reconfirm their terms of reference for 2024.
Okay, so we just reconfirm rather
As
than accept?
amended.
As amended? Yeah, okay. So could we get that motion then? Yeah, Penny?
I'll make that motion that the ACRD Board of Directors, we recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors, right? Recommendation?
I think you're looking to just confirm your terms of reference as amended.
Okay, confirm our terms of reference as recommended, as amended.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it since the terms of reference was approved by the ACRD board.
Right, all in favor? Carried, thank you. That brings us to the operations and projects verbal update from Mark Fortune. Mark, welcome.
Yeah, good. So I'll give you a quick update on what's happened in the last little bit with the AVRA, Charlie Bravo Sierra 8. We were asked at the last meeting to keep tabs on movements at the airfield. Over the last 30 days, we've had 403 movements. That's a movement is a landing and a takeoff. And out of that 403 movements, we had about 10%, just over 10% in the guest book, 43 entries in the guest book. We conducted some road clearing on Airport Road. It was rather overgrown, so we've had island mowing in there and they've taken back the vegetation significantly. We got that done just in time for a BC Aviation Council site tour at the Coulson facility. That was conducted in the end of May. So it was tweaked quite nicely for them. The Aviation Council of BC has a varied group of airport supporters through the province, and Coulson was supplying construction tours of their maintenance facility and also the Mars at that time. So that was a nice one to have all nice and tidied up, so we can put a good foot forward for the rest of the province. We've had some clearing complaints, basically associated with airport OLS clearing, and we've been doing no clearing at all on the site. Those complaints were in reference to Woodlot 1479. It's directly across Airport Road. And if you drive up Airport Road, you'll actually be able to see some mountains now on your left-hand side. That was once again conducted by Woodlot owner 1479. So nothing to do with us with clearing, because we're on hold for a couple of issues still. For our OLS clearing update, we've been able to secure a road permit or a path forward for road permits with the Woodlot owner. So that's setting us in good stead for our clearing project in the fall of 2024. We've also had some vandalism associated with the Nimitt Forest Service Road. What's happened is the adjacent Christmas tree owner brought that to our attention. The back gate had been, the lock had been removed and not replaced, and it had allowed people cutting firewood to enter into the area. There's also an access to that site on Coleman Road. I believe the Nimitt Forest Service Road is an easier way to get out. So what happened is trucks laden with firewood were trying to trample basically to get onto Airport Road through the Christmas tree farm. And we've dealt with that with Flynn Row. We've had a gate permit request in for them since 2022. We haven't had a renewal. We need a gate permit through Flynnrod to actually have a gate. Since we're not currently holding a gate permit, we've asked Flynn Row to actually change the locks on that gate and control access through that gate. The gate, there are two gates on Nimitt Forest Service Road. We allow access for vehicles under basically 7'6". Sorry, I'm old school. I'm not metric on that kind of thing. That'll be underneath the OLS. Anything above that requires us to put in a process for NOTAM with NAV Canada. And those processes are still going to be in place, but the key holder now will be Flynn Row moving forward. And beyond that, we're going to have major clearing operations on the airfield starting probably in the next week and a half. We'll be bringing out equipment from the West Coast and start doing a major tune-up on the airfield and infield areas. And that's what I have for you right now. Open for questions.
Committee, any questions? Cindy?
So just a quick question, just because, and I have no issues with this, but I'm going to ask it. The site tour, when we did the cleanup, wasn't done just because of Coulson's. It was done because of fire season and other issues prior to, right? It just happened to
Coincide.
Yes. Just to make sure that's clear.
Yep. Regarding the road through the chair, the road we've been able to mow the road with our mower deck when we're out on a regular clearing. We can't get into the ditch lines as deeply as a boom mower can. That was an issue for the last couple of years. We had to bring in specialized equipment to do that work. A problem we ran into last year was fire season started very quickly last year, and it even impacted our clearing on the airport side. So we went from very wet to basically fire ban in about a 4-week period, which didn't allow us to do our mowing in appropriate time. So we'd actually planned this as part of our clearing process to try and get it out of the way prior to any fire ban. It just happened to coincide that we've got some VIPs coming into the area, and we're trying to make our airport look nice and tidy.
Okay, Penny, you had a question, and then Cindy.
Thank you. You gave us some numbers, 43 signed in to the guest book. So does that represent guests then that are coming to the airport, that are not frequently landing here? Or does that also include the flying club and other? Because you said there was 403 takeoff landings and only 43 signed a book, so.
And through the chair. So quite often the book is utilized through flight training schools to prove that the student has actually landed at the facility. Quite often the number of travelers coming in and out, if we're doing flight training, say it's helicopter flight training, if they're doing it cross country, that's when that book would probably be utilized to actually have proof that they actually landed at the site instead of just flying over and say they did land at the site. We don't keep track of who is actually putting their name in the book and what organization they're for. We just take into account the number of entries in the book. We do have a lot of flight training occurring at the airfield right now, fixed wing, a lot of glider work as well.
So you're saying that there's a lot more activity than at the airport than that book would actually indicate or reflect?
Once again, through the chair, that is correct for both. The book is capturing about 10%, but we'll try and keep numbers moving forward through our caretaker. We're going to miss some of the movements because he's not on site all the time, but it's impressive.
Okay, thank you. And Cindy, you had a question?
First of all, thank you for the last comment, question that I asked you, and the other comment or question I'd like to ask is regarding the numbers, the stats. And sorry, my back is to you here. What I'd like to know is I would like to see the stats capped, and is that amount of people coming through our airport, is that, we've never really kept stats, but is that sort of the are we on status flow, or could we increase it? What can we do?
Once again, through the chair, the way we're keeping stats right now, a lot of the training that's happening, for example, glider training, that'll just get marked down as, training period. We are keeping track of medevac use at the site and also larger commercial aircraft. So we have some large jet aircraft that are coming into the site that are not Coulson aircraft, and we're just marking those down individually right now. But that's about the extent of our record keeping for that at the moment. But we can try and move that forward through the summer and give you some better numbers in the fall.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Any other questions, comments? All right, then a motion to receive that verbal report, please. And Penny, seconder, Cindy, all in favor? Carried. Thank you so much. Don't see any late business. There is no public participating on Zoom. And do we have any questions that have been emailed? Cynthia?
So we don't have any questions by email, but we do have questions through Zoom.
Okay.
So there's 3 questions from Mike Wysowski. First one, why do directors keep calling it an airport? Is it not classified as a aerodrome? If it was an airport, then there would be fees for usage and actual commercial flights using the airstrip. Second question, I also see the request for 85,000 to deal with the trees at the ends of the airstrip to accommodate a lower approach angle. How does this benefit the taxpayer? If this is to benefit a particular renter, then that renter should pay for the work to be done, not the taxpayer. And the third question, with 403 takeoffs and landings, why are there no fees being collected? This money could go towards the 330,000 yearly loss of taxpayer money.
Okay, Jenny, over to you.
Thank you. I would love to start, and I will ask our lovely airport manager to help out because I continue to try to get this. So yes, I think it's very astute to note that it's an aerodrome because it is an aerodrome. However, the name is the Alberni Valley Regional Airport. There's no there's no requirement for us to call it a technical aerodrome or airport. The name is an Alberni Valley Airport. I think partly the value in calling it an airport is that people don't understand what an aerodrome is. So I think that it makes sense to have the name be the Alberni Valley Regional Airport. Mark, I will have you jump in though, just to give a small technical explanation, because I think it is of interest on the difference between an aerodrome and why it is an aerodrome versus like the Long Beach Airport, which is technically an airport. So if you don't mind just giving a 1, 2, 3 on that.
Sure, once again, through the chair. So an aerodrome is anywhere basically that you can land or take off an aircraft. It could be a helipad, it could be classified as an aerodrome. It could be a strip in a farmer's backyard. There's regulations through the Aeronautics Act that dictates what an aerodrome is. In our airport system within the ACRD, we run the AVRA site, which is Charlie Bravo Sierra 8, and that is classified as an aerodrome. We meet different regulatory standards at this site. And then we also run the Tofino Airport, which is a certified site. And it's an airport, so we have a lot more regulatory requirements to operate the Tofino site as a certified site than we do at the Port Alberni site. The major component with that is the certification requirement comes in because we're moving regularly scheduled traffic through the Tofino site. Pacific Coastal Airlines is operating that service. And at the Port Alberni site, we are not doing that. There is a significant cost savings by not having all that extra bureaucratic requirements at the Port Alberni site. We can still operate heavy aircraft, C-130, 737 through this location. It's great. If you were the city of Edmonton and you're doing the same thing, you would have to be certified just because the surrounding landmass has a high component for inhabitants impacts. So this particular site in the valley is great because you can operate it at a cheaper rate than you would be able to under certified circumstances.
Okay, thank you. Cindy?
And so a quick question regarding that. So if we became, I remember when the airport started and now everything, we talked about having more commercial flights and different things in the community. And I'm talking about planes landing, going back and forth. So if we landed up becoming certified, wouldn't we also be charging landing fees and make some money out of there? Is there any, because I missed part of the airport, there was a clump that I wasn't on the airport during back in the day. So I'm just kind of curious to know, is there potential or has there been discussion about becoming certified, and what would it look like if we were certified instead of being an aerodrome? Because I'd like to see more flights and scheduled flights coming through our airport. And so how would we do this?
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. Right now, you can bring in a commercial flight into and that happens right now. It happened last year during the highway foreclosure, Cameron Lake. You can bring in commercial flights on a charter basis. So you could bring in 737s on a charter basis and not be required to have certification, which is a good thing. And you have that happening right now. You have lots of commercial jet traffic that comes in, especially over the summer, to access fishing and resort facilities along Sproat Lake. Going back to discussions, we've had these discussions some time ago regarding the cost of certification regarding AVRA and non-certification. And the cost for certification would be very onerous in this site. We'd have to have daily runway inspections, wildlife management plans, winter maintenance plans, a whole host of other regulatory compliance, which is very costly to implement. Regarding cost recovery on the actual site, a lot of the flying that's happening on the site right now is flight training, and it's actually organizations that are on the airfield doing that, specifically the Soaring Association. So you're getting a lot of movements with them. There's a cost to try and access funds. There's a cost upfront to track the funds. There's a cost upfront for billing programs and such to actually charge back those people. At the Tofino site, we have no charge landings for based operators. So if you're Tofino Airlines and Atleo Air, they come and go as many times as they want on the airfield. They get charged airport maintenance fees and other cost recovery components, which are already charging at AVRA. But for the amount of flights they do, they don't get charged per landing. Pacific Coastal, on the other hand, even though they rent a stall at the airport, they're not classified as a base tenant, and they get charged every time they come in and out. And we also have a passenger fee for that as well. So you're not at the point at this point in time where you could make a feasible attempt at collecting those fees. It would cost you more to collect those fees than you would actually see out of the fees themselves. So, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
So just to follow up, yes, it does answer the question, and I agree, based tenants shouldn't be charged as, somebody from the States or from Vancouver who are just flying over in that. And I just look at it, if there's money to be made somewhere along the line, it would have been really great to be put in. I do understand the costs and stuff like that. And so I don't know what would outweigh more, do we get a lot of people that are from the States or just popping in, and yeah, why wouldn't I land here too? I mean, it's free. So, yeah.
Mark.
Through the chair. Once again, you'll have an organization or an aircraft that would come in, say from Victoria, and do say maybe 4, 5 touch and goes at this location. And then our cost recovery on that aircraft is quite often they stop for fuel. Refuel the aircraft, we charge them a percentage increase over what our cost for fuel. And that's one of the ways we can actually recoup our investment.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right, then a motion to receive the verbal report. So move and second. Mike, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Then committee, that brings us to our in-camera, and so we're going to have to ask the public to leave while we move into in-camera. Thank you very much for coming today.